I used to think you could tell who someone was by looking at them. Then a bald man covered in tattoos caught me before I hit the concrete, and everything I thought I knew about safety became a lie. It was 7:42 a.m. in a Philadelphia stairwell that smelled like cleaning solution and old paint. I was late, running in heels I couldn't afford on a salary that barely covered rent. My heel caught the third step. I pitched forward, arms flailing, bracing for the kind of fall that breaks bones and pride in equal measure. But I never hit the ground. His hands, rough, strong, covered in faded ink, caught me like I weighed nothing. When I turned to thank him, my breath stopped. He had a scar running along his jaw, eyes that had seen violence up close, and a stillness that felt more like control than calm. He didn't smile. He just asked if I was okay. You will feel so many emotions in this story of second chances and forbidden love. Please support us by clicking subscribe to the channel. The morning Mara Bennett's life changed started like every other morning in the Riverside apartments. The elevator was broken again. The stairwell lights flickered with that electric buzz that promised a migraine by noon. She'd overslept, again, after staying up late reviewing case files for the law firm where she worked as a legal assistant. Coffee stained her cream blouse. Her portfolio bag kept slipping off her shoulder, and those damn heels, the ones that made her legs look professional but felt like medieval torture devices, clicked against concrete as she rushed down the stairs. She'd lived in this building for 6 months and never saw anyone in the stairwell. The Riverside wasn't the kind of place where neighbors socialized. People kept their heads down, paid rent, and minded their own business. That's why when her heel caught on the third step's loose rubber edge, when her body pitched forward and time seemed to slow in that terrible moment before impact, she didn't expect salvation, but it came. Strong hands gripped her waist, steadied her, held her upright until her feet found purchase again. The hands were careful but certain, like they'd caught falling things before and knew exactly how much pressure to apply. When she turned to thank whoever it was, words died in her throat. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with shoulders that looked like they'd been built through labor, not a gym. His head was completely bald, gleaming under the fluorescent lights, and tattoos covered every visible inch of his arms. Not the trendy, artistic kind. These were old tattoos, faded and rough around the edges, the kind done in basements or prison cells with improvised equipment. A snake wound up his left forearm. Words in Gothic script decorated his right bicep, though she couldn't read them from this angle. His hands were scarred across the knuckles, and a thick scar ran along his jawline from ear to chin. But it was his eyes that stopped her. They were gray, almost colorless in the dim light, and they looked at her with an intensity that should have been frightening. Should have been. Wasn't. You okay? His voice was low, gravelly, like he didn't use it much. Mara nodded, breathless, and tried to pull away. He didn't let go immediately. Not aggressive, just making sure she was actually stable before releasing her. You always run like that, he asked. She forced a laugh, tugging at her bag. I'm late for work. He looked down at her shoes, then at the stairs, then back at her face. His expression was unreadable. I'll walk you. She blinked. What? He was already moving toward the exit door, his gait purposeful and efficient. You'll fall again. I'll walk you. Everything in Mara's brain screamed that this was a bad idea. She didn't know this man. He looked like every warning her mother had ever given her about dangerous strangers. The tattoos, the scars, the way he moved with the kind of controlled awareness that came from constant vigilance. All of it said, keep your distance. But something in his tone stopped her reflexive refusal. It wasn't a question, it wasn't a command, it was just certainty. Like he'd already decided she needed looking after and her opinion on the matter was secondary to the fact of it. So she followed. They walked in silence through Philadelphia's morning chaos. Buses hissed at stops. Coffee shop doors chimed. Homeless people asked for change. He kept pace beside her, not touching, not crowding, but present. She noticed how his eyes never stopped moving, scanning intersections, watching people approach, noting exits and obstacles with the kind of automatic threat assessment most people never developed. I'm Mara, she said finally, because the silence felt loaded. Apartment 3B. Derek, he replied. 4C. Right above her. How had she never seen him before? At the entrance to the glass and steel building where she worked, he stopped. The morning rush of lawyers and assistants flowed around them like water around stones. "Same time tomorrow?" Derek asked. "You don't have to." "I know." He looked at her shoes again, then met her eyes. Something passed between them, some unspoken understanding she couldn't name. Then he turned and walked away, hands in his pockets, disappearing into the crowd with surprising ease for someone his size. That evening, climbing back up those same stairs because the elevator was still broken, Mara noticed something. The third step where she'd tripped had a loose edge, a gap where the rubber tread had pulled away from the concrete. It had been there for months. She'd complained to building management twice. Nothing had been done. But Derek had seen it in seconds. She thought about his hands catching her, about the way he'd known exactly how much force to use, enough to stop her fall, not enough to hurt, about how he'd assessed her shoes and the stairs, and made a decision to insert himself into her life based on a split-second evaluation of risk she hadn't even been aware of. The next morning, she woke up wondering if he'd really be there. Part of her hoped he would. Part of her hoped he wouldn't. She took extra care getting ready, told herself it had nothing to do with him. When she reached the bottom of the stairs at 7:40 a.m., Derek was waiting by the exit door. He was wearing work boots, faded jeans, and a plain black t-shirt that showed every tattoo on his arms in sharp detail. In his hands were 2 paper coffee cups from the bodega on the corner. "You looked tired yesterday," he said, offering her one. She took it automatically. The coffee was exactly how she liked it. Cream, 2 sugars. She hadn't told him that. "How did you—" "You threw out a cup in the lobby trash last week. I pay attention." The words should have sounded creepy, stalkerish. But the way he said them, matter of fact, no artifice, they just sounded honest. They walked. And as the morning light caught the angles of his face, as she noticed the careful way he held his own coffee cup and the systematic way he checked each cross street, Mara realized something that made her pulse quicken with equal parts fear and fascination. Derek hadn't just been there yesterday. He'd been watching her long before she fell. Derek kept showing up, not just in the mornings, but everywhere. At the bus stop when she missed her usual ride home, outside her office building when she worked late, at the corner bodega when she grabbed a sad excuse for dinner at 9 p.m. on a Thursday night. He was just there, like a shadow that had decided to become solid. At first, Mara felt that prickle of unease every woman learns to trust. This was how stalkers operated, wasn't it? The gradual invasion of space disguised as coincidence. But Derek never got too close, never demanded conversation, never made her feel trapped or obligated. He'd just appear, nod in acknowledgement, and exist in her periphery like some kind of silent guardian she'd never asked for. On Tuesday, he was at the bus stop when her usual 6:15 didn't come. She stood there checking her phone, annoyed and tired, when she felt his presence beside her. "It's running 20 minutes late," Derek said quietly. "Accident on Broad Street." "How do you—" He showed her his phone screen. "A transit app with real-time updates. I check it when I see you walking this way. When I see you walking this way." The words hung between them. He was admitting to watching her routine, tracking her movements. She should have been angry, should have told him to back off. But all she felt was a strange, confusing sense of being seen, noticed, protected. "You don't have to keep doing this," she said. Derek was quiet for a moment, watching the street. "I know." "So why?" He turned those gray eyes on her, and she saw something in them she couldn't quite name. Pain, maybe, or purpose. "Because I can, and because nobody else is." The bus finally arrived. Derek didn't get on, just nodded as she climbed the steps. Through the grimy window, she watched him walk away, hands in pockets, head on a swivel like he was reading the street in a language she'd never learned. On Wednesday, she worked late on a particularly brutal deposition prep. The senior partner was demanding, the witnesses were hostile, and by the time she finished transcribing notes, it was nearly 10 p.m. The office building was mostly empty, just the janitorial staff and a few other workaholics scattered across 40 floors. When she finally gathered her things and headed for the elevator, she felt the exhaustion in her bones. The lobby was deserted. Through the glass doors, she could see the street, darker than it should be. A streetlight out, shadows pooling in doorways. Center City, Philadelphia wasn't dangerous, exactly, but it wasn't safe either. Not at this hour. Not for a woman alone. She pushed through the doors and nearly collided with Derek. He was leaning against the building's exterior wall, completely still, watching the street with that same vigilant awareness she'd noticed before. Jesus! Mara pressed a hand to her chest. You scared me. Sorry. He didn't look sorry. You usually leave by 7. How do you... She stopped. Of course he knew. He always knew. I had work. Derek nodded, pushed off the wall. I'll walk you. You've been waiting here for 3 hours. He shrugged like it was nothing. Like standing on a street corner for 3 hours in case someone needed walking home was a perfectly normal thing to do. They walked. Mara kept stealing glances at him, trying to understand what kind of man did this. What kind of person appointed themselves someone's protector without being asked, without expecting anything in return? The tattoos on his arms seemed to writhe in the streetlight. That snake, those Gothic letters she could now see spelled out words. Redemption and forgiveness. In script that had clearly been done by different hands at different times. Can I ask you something? She said finally. Sure. Why do you care if I get home safe? Derek was quiet for half a block. They passed a group of young men outside a convenience store who went silent as Derek approached, their postures changing subtly, not challenging him, respecting him, or maybe fearing him. When they were passed, Derek spoke. You ever have something you can't fix? He asked. Something you broke that stays broken no matter how hard you try. I don't know. Maybe. I have. And I spent a long time thinking that meant I was broken too. Permanently. Then you tripped on those stairs and I caught you, and for the first time in years, I did something right at exactly the right moment. And I thought, maybe if I keep doing that, keep showing up, keep being there when it matters, maybe that's how you fix what's broken. The honesty in his voice made her chest ache. Derek, you don't have to understand it, he continued. You don't have to like it, but you do have to let me do this. Because I need to. They reached the Riverside apartments. The lobby door had a broken lock. Mara had complained about that too, to no avail. Derek noticed it immediately. That needs fixing, he said. I know. Management doesn't care. He looked at the door, then at her, then back at the door. I'll take care of it. Before she could ask what he meant, he was already examining the mechanism, his scarred hands moving with surprising delicacy over the metal components. The next morning, the door locked properly, and there was Derek, waiting by the stairs with her coffee. On Thursday evening, her ex-boyfriend Tyler showed up at her office. Mara had dated Tyler for 6 months, a year ago. He was a pharmaceutical sales rep, charming, good-looking, successful. He was also controlling, jealous, and had a tendency to show up uninvited when he wanted something. They'd broken up badly. He claimed she owed him money for a vacation he'd paid for that she'd cut short. She claimed he was delusional. Now he was in her office lobby, arguing with security, his voice carrying across the marble floor. I just need 5 minutes. Mara, I know you're here. Her boss's assistant, Jennifer, appeared at Mara's elbow. Do you know him? My ex, Mara said quietly. Can security get him out? They did, eventually. But not before Tyler made a scene, shouting threats about small claims court and how she'd regret playing games with him. The senior partner called Mara into his office afterward, face concerned and stern. Is this going to be a problem? He asked. No, sir, it's handled. But it wasn't handled. Because that night, walking home alone, Derek had mentioned something about a late shift and hadn't been waiting. Mara felt eyes on her back. She turned twice but saw no one. The streetlights seemed dimmer than usual. The blocks felt longer. She was half a block from the Riverside when she saw it. Tyler's BMW, parked across the street from her building. He was sitting in the driver's seat, phone glowing in the dark interior, watching her apartment windows. Mara's blood went cold. She turned to go back the way she'd come, planning to call the police from somewhere public, somewhere safe. But before she'd taken 3 steps, Derek appeared beside her. She didn't hear him coming, didn't see him approach. He was just suddenly there, solid and real and radiating a kind of controlled danger that made the air feel electric. That guy from your office, Derek said, his voice flat and cold in a way she'd never heard before. He's been parked outside your building for an hour. You need to tell me. Is he a problem? The way Derek asked made Mara realize something terrifying and thrilling in equal measure. Derek wasn't offering to scare Tyler off. He was asking permission to do something he already knew how to do, something he'd probably done before, something that had likely landed him in whatever trouble had put those scars on his knuckles and that watchful wariness in his eyes. She looked at Tyler's car, then at Derek's face, hard and waiting and absolutely certain of his own capabilities. "Yes," she whispered. "He's a problem." Derek's jaw tightened. He nodded once. "Then let me handle it. But I need you to go inside, lock your door, and don't come out until I text you." "Can you do that, Derek? What are you going to—" "Nothing that'll get me in trouble," he said. The ghost of a smile touched his mouth. "I learned my lesson about that. But he needs to understand that watching you is over, and I speak that language better than you do." He walked toward Tyler's BMW with the easy confidence of someone who'd walked toward violence before and survived it. Mara didn't sleep that night. She sat on her worn couch in apartment 3B, phone clutched in her hand, staring at the door and waiting for Derek's text. It came at 11:47 p.m. "He's gone. Won't be back." Get some sleep. She wanted to call him, wanted to ask what happened, what he'd said or done to make Tyler leave, but something told her she wouldn't like the answer. Or maybe that she'd like it too much. The next morning, Derek wasn't waiting by the stairs. Mara told herself it was fine. He'd had a late night dealing with her problems. He was probably sleeping in, or had an early shift, or a dozen other perfectly reasonable explanations. But as she walked to work alone for the first time in a week, she felt his absence like a missing tooth. Her tongue kept finding the gap, worrying at it, unable to leave it alone. At the office, Jennifer pulled her aside. "Did you hear? Your ex filed a police report last night. Said someone assaulted him outside his car." Mara's stomach dropped. "What?" "Yeah, apparently some guy approached him, threatened him. Tyler's got a witness and everything, someone who saw the whole thing from a window. The police are looking for the suspect now. Big white guy, bald, covered in tattoos." The coffee Mara had grabbed from the bodega turned to acid in her stomach. She left work at lunch, ignored her boss's disapproving look, and practically ran back to the riverside. She took the stairs 2 at a time, ignoring the loose third step, and pounded on the door of apartment 4C. Derek answered after the third knock. He was shirtless, wearing only a pair of faded jeans, and the full scope of his tattoos was overwhelming. They covered his chest, his shoulders, his back, an entire history written in ink. Prison tattoos, street tattoos, amateur work, and professional pieces all layered together. A cross over his heart, names she couldn't read, dates, symbols that probably meant something to people who'd lived a life she couldn't imagine. "Did you assault Tyler?" she demanded. Derek's face remained neutral. "No. The police are looking for you. He filed a report." "I didn't assault him." Derek stepped back, letting her into his apartment. It was sparse. A mattress on the floor, a small table, 2 chairs, a shelf of books, nothing else. The apartment of someone who owned nothing and expected to lose what little he had. "I had a conversation with him. I explained that watching you was going to stop. He got aggressive. I didn't touch him." "Then why is he saying, 'Because I scared him'?" Derek said it simply, like it was just a fact. "Because I'm good at scaring people when I need to be. And because he's the kind of guy who can't handle being scared by someone like me, so he called the cops and lied about what happened." Mara sank into one of the chairs. "Derek, if the police believe him, they won't. I was careful. I stayed far enough away that his witness, if he even has one, can't say I touched him. I kept my voice level. I didn't threaten him. I just explained consequences." Derek sat in the other chair, elbows on his knees, hands clasped. "But you're right to be worried. Because this is who I am, Mara. I know how to handle people like Tyler. I know how to make threats without making threats. I know how to be intimidating enough that violence doesn't become necessary. And I learned all of that in places you've never been and hope you never see. Who are you?" The question came out as a whisper. Derek was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood, pulled a t-shirt from a duffel bag in the corner, and put it on. When he turned back to her, his expression was resigned. "What do you want to know?" "Everything." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That might take a while. I've got time." Derek sat back down. "My name is Derek Hayes. I'm 34 years old. I spent 8 years in Graterford State Correctional Institution. I got out 3 months ago. Assault and battery. I put a man in the hospital because I was angry and stupid and thought violence was the only language worth speaking. The words hung in the air between them like smoke. Mara's heart was hammering, but she kept her face neutral, kept herself still. Why? Why did I do it? Yes. Derek looked at his scarred knuckles. His name was Marcus Webb. He was a real estate developer. Rich guy, connected, and he was beating the hell out of his girlfriend, Sarah. She was someone I grew up with. Lived on my street in Kensington. We weren't dating or anything, just... She was one of mine, you know? One of the people you look out for because that's what you do in neighborhoods like that. He took a breath. Sarah showed up at my door one night with a split lip and a broken rib. Told me Marcus had done it, that it wasn't the first time, that she couldn't leave because he'd threatened to kill her. I told her to go to the police. She said she'd tried. He had friends in the department. Nothing ever stuck. So you went after him. Mara finished. I went to talk to him. That was the plan. Just talk. Tell him to leave her alone. But when I got there, he laughed at me. Called Sarah a lying whore. Said she liked it rough and I was too stupid to understand the difference. Derek's jaw clenched. And I lost it. I beat him until other people pulled me off. Broke his jaw, 3 ribs, collapsed a lung. He spent 2 weeks in the hospital. Mara tried to process it. Tried to reconcile the man who brought her coffee and fixed broken locks with the image of someone beating another human being until bones broke. They offered me a deal, Derek continued. Plead guilty to aggravated assault. 8 to 15 years. My public defender said I should take it because Marcus had money and lawyers and I had nothing, so I took it. Did my time, kept my head down, took classes, read everything I could get my hands on, learned that violence might have felt righteous in the moment, but it solved nothing. It just broke me further. And Sarah? Mara asked quietly. She testified against me. Marcus's lawyers convinced her that I'd attacked him unprovoked, that I was dangerous. She was scared. I don't blame her. Derek's voice was hollow. I got out 3 months ago. $2,800 in my gate money, a duffel bag of books, and a list of conditions longer than my rap sheet. Parole for 5 years, weekly check-ins, approved employment only, can't leave the city without permission. 1 violation, and I go back for the rest of my sentence. Mara felt tears prickling her eyes, but she blinked them away. Why didn't you tell me? And because who says that? Derek looked at her, and for the first time she saw vulnerability in those gray eyes. How do you tell someone you just met that you're a convicted felon? That you've been to prison? That you're one mistake away from losing what little freedom you have? You just try to be someone different, someone better, and hope they never ask. She thought about the past week, about his careful politeness, his measured words, the way he noticed everything and controlled every reaction, a man who'd learned to survive in a place where showing weakness meant pain. I should go, Mara said, standing. She saw something flicker across Derek's face. Disappointment, resignation, maybe relief that she was making the choice he'd expected all along. But then she turned back. I don't care. Derek blinked. What? I don't care that you went to prison. I care that you tried to help someone who was being hurt. I care that you paid for it when the guy who was actually hurting people didn't. And I care that you've spent 3 months walking me to work because you caught me one time and decided that mattered enough to keep doing it. She took a step toward him. Everyone told me to run from you. My brain is telling me to run. But when I look at you, all I see is someone who made a mistake trying to do the right thing, and who's been paying for it ever since. Derek stood slowly, like he was afraid sudden movement might shatter the moment. Mara, you don't know what you're saying. Being around me, it's going to complicate your life. The police are going to want to question me about Tyler. My parole officer is going to hear about it. People are going to see us together and make assumptions. Let them. Your family. We'll deal with it. Your job is my problem. She stepped closer. Derek, you asked me if you could walk me to work. I'm saying yes, not because I need protection, but because I want you to keep showing up. The silence stretched between them, loaded with possibility and danger and something neither of them wanted to name yet. Derek's phone buzzed. He checked it and his expression hardened. It's my parole officer. She wants to see me. Today. What does that mean? It means Tyler's complaint reached her, and she's going to want to know if I violated any conditions of my parole. He grabbed a jacket from the back of his chair. I have to go. Will you be okay? I'll be fine. He hesitated at the door, turned back. Mara, thank you. For not running. After he left, Mara sat in his sparse apartment for a long time, looking at the shelf of books. Philosophy, psychology, anger management, restorative justice, the reading list of someone trying to rebuild themselves from the ground up. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. When she opened it, her blood turned to ice. It was a photo of her apartment building. Her window was circled in red. The message below read, "You can't hide behind your guard dog forever." The number wasn't Tyler's. Someone else was watching her. And they knew about Derek. Derek came back to the riverside at 8 p.m. Mara was waiting in the lobby. Had been waiting for 2 hours, unable to sit still in her apartment after receiving that text. When she saw him come through the door, the relief was physical. How did it go? She asked immediately. Derek's face was grim. I'm still free, that's something. He noticed her expression. What happened? She showed him the text, watched his jaw tighten as he read it, watched that controlled fury she'd glimpsed with Tyler come back into his eyes. This isn't Tyler, he said quietly. I know. This is someone who knows what they're doing. Someone who's been watching longer than just last night. Derek looked at her window, then at the street, calculating angles and sight lines. I need to make some calls. Calls to who? People who know about this kind of thing. He saw her expression. Legal people. My parole officer. Maybe a detective who actually gives a damn. He hesitated. But Mara, you need to understand, every move I make is watched. Every phone call I make, the parole board can request records of. Every person I talk to, they can question. I'm not a free man. I'm a free man on a very short leash. And if I step wrong trying to help you, you go back, she finished. Yeah. Mara made a decision. Then I'm not letting you risk that. I'll handle this. I'll go to the police myself, file a report, and tell them what? That you received a threatening text from an unknown number? They'll file a report and do nothing because they have actual crimes to investigate. Derek's voice was frustrated but not unkind. This is what guys like this count on. They know the system, know how to operate just inside the legal line. So what do we do? Derek was quiet for a moment. Then, can I come up? To your apartment? I want to check your windows, your locks, make sure everything's secure. Mara's apartment was small, studio layout with a kitchenette, a bathroom barely big enough to turn around in, and a single room that served as bedroom, living room, and office. She'd tried to make it cozy with cheap furniture from IKEA and plants she kept forgetting to water. Compared to Derek's sparse cell upstairs, it looked cluttered and lived in. Derek moved through the space methodically, checking the window locks, testing the door chain, examining the fire escape access. Your window lock is broken, he said, wiggling the latch. And this fire escape is too easy to access from the alley. I know. I told management, I'll fix it. He was already pulling tools from his pockets. A screwdriver, a small wrench, items he apparently carried everywhere. But you shouldn't stay here tonight. Not until I can secure these properly. Where am I supposed to go? Derek didn't answer right away. He finished tightening the window lock, tested it twice, then turned to her. You could stay in my apartment. I'll sleep in the lobby. Keep watch. The offer was practical but intimate in a way that made Mara's pulse quicken. Derek, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. He moved to the door, examined the frame. Whoever sent that text knows where you live. They know your window. They've been watching long enough to see me with you. That means they're patient and they're focused. Those are the dangerous ones. How do you know that? Derek looked at her, and in his eyes, she saw the weight of experience she'd never have. Because I met a lot of them inside. The guys who plan, who wait, who don't act on impulse but on calculation. He returned to fixing her door lock. Impulsive people are scary but predictable. The patient ones, they're the ones you have to worry about. Mara watched him work. The careful way his scarred hands manipulated tools, the focus in his expression, the competence of someone who'd learned to fix things because nobody else would do it for him. Can I ask you something? She said. Sure. What was it like? Prison. Derek's hands stilled for a moment. Then he continued working. Loud. Even when it was quiet, it was loud. The kind of noise that gets in your head and stays there. Doors slamming, men yelling, guards walking past, the constant awareness that you're never alone but always isolated. He adjusted the strike plate, tested the door. The first year was the worst. Learning the rules, official ones and the ones inmates enforce. Learning who to talk to and who to avoid. Learning to sleep with one eye open and wake up at the slightest sound. Did you? Mara hesitated. Did anyone hurt you? People tried? Derek's voice was matter-of-fact. I'm not a small guy, and I learned fast how to carry myself, made a few allies, avoided the politics, kept my head down, and did my time. He finished with the door and turned to face her. But yeah, prison changes you. You come out different than you went in. Harder in some ways, more careful in others. You learn that survival isn't about being the toughest or the meanest. It's about being smart, about knowing when to fight and when to walk away, about protecting what little dignity you have left. Is that why you read so much? Derek smiled slightly. Yeah, books were freedom, still are. You can be anywhere, anyone, when you're reading. Philosophy helped me understand my own anger. Psychology helped me understand why I made the choices I did. History showed me I wasn't the first person to screw up, and I wouldn't be the last. He gestured to her bookshelf, sparse compared to his, but still holding a dozen worn paperbacks. You like mysteries. Is that from watching me, too? No, that's from looking at your bookshelf. But there was humor in his voice now, some of the tension easing. They talked for hours. Mara ordered pizza. Derek tried to pay, but she refused, and they sat on her worn couch eating and talking about books and neighborhoods and the Philadelphia they'd both grown up in but experienced so differently. She learned he'd been a construction worker before prison, that he was good with his hands, that he'd always wanted to learn carpentry, but never had the money for proper training. She told him about her failed attempts at law school, about working as a legal assistant and watching lawyers do the work she'd dreamed of doing, about the debt that kept piling up no matter how hard she worked. You could still go back, Derek said, to law school. With what money? You're smart. You could get scholarships, loans. I already have loans. That's the problem. Mara picked at her pizza crust. Besides, I'm 29. By the time I finish, I'd be 32, competing for jobs with people fresh out of school who don't have my baggage. What baggage? She gestured vaguely. Life, bad decisions, the fact that I can barely keep my own life together, let alone advocate for other people. Derek was quiet for a moment. Then, I was 26 when I went to prison. I got out at 34, 8 years gone. 8 years of my life where I couldn't make choices, couldn't build anything, couldn't move forward. He looked at her. You're 29 and free. You have time. You have options. Don't waste them because you're scared of being older than the other students. Age doesn't matter. What matters is whether you're moving toward something or away from it. The words settled into Mara's chest, heavy and true. Her phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. Did you think changing your locks would stop me? Derek took the phone, read the message, his expression darkening. They're watching right now. They saw me working on your door. Mara felt cold. How is that possible? Could be someone in the building. Could be someone with a view of your window. Could be they hacked your phone and can see your camera. Derek stood, moved to the window, looked out carefully. We need to take this to the police, tonight. You just said they wouldn't do anything. That was before the second message. Now there's a pattern. Now it's escalating. He pulled out his own phone. I'm calling Detective Martinez. She's good people. She helped me with my parole hearing. Testified that I'd been cooperative during my sentencing. She'll listen. Detective Elena Martinez arrived at the Riverside 40 minutes later. She was in her late 40s, tired eyes, and a no-nonsense demeanor that made Mara feel slightly safer just having her there. Derek met her in the lobby, and Mara noticed how his posture changed. More formal, more careful, the body language of someone who knew he was being evaluated. Hayes, Martinez said. Staying out of trouble? Trying to. Derek gestured to Mara. This is Mara Bennett. Someone's been threatening her. I need you to take it seriously. They went through everything. Tyler's appearance at her office, Derek's conversation with him, the threatening texts, the photo of her building. Martinez took notes, asked questions, never once implying that Mara was overreacting or wasting her time. The texts came from a burner phone, Martinez said, examining Mara's phone. We can try to trace it, but it's probably a dead end. These guys know how to stay anonymous. She looked at Derek. You think it's connected to you? Maybe. Or maybe it's someone with a fixation on Mara. Could be Tyler hired someone to scare her. Could be a coworker with a grudge. Could be random. Derek's voice was frustrated. Too many variables. I'll file a formal report. Get patrol cars to do extra passes by the building. But Mara, you should stay somewhere else for a few days. Just until we can figure out who's behind this. After Martinez left, Mara packed a bag, toiletries, clothes, her laptop. Derek waited by the door, vigilant as always. I really think you should stay with family, he said as they climbed the stairs to his apartment. Parents? Sister? My parents are in Ohio. My sister. Mara shook her head. We're not close. Friends? Nobody I'd want to burden with this. Derek's apartment felt different at night. Smaller, more intimate. He set up the mattress for Mara, insisted on taking the floor himself despite her protests. Derek, she said as he arranged blankets on the carpet. Why are you doing this? He looked up at her. I told you, because I can, because I need to. But why me? You don't even know me. Derek sat back on his heels. You're wrong. I do know you. I know you work too hard for too little appreciation. I know you're kind even when you're exhausted. I know you notice the small things. The homeless guy on your corner. You always stop and talk to him. The bodega owner. You remember his daughter's name. You're someone who sees people. He paused. And when you looked at me in that stairwell, you saw me. Not what I'd done or where I'd been. Just me. And I guess I wanted to be worthy of that. The silence that followed felt like a promise they were both afraid to make. Mara lay awake on Derek's mattress long after he'd fallen asleep on the floor. She listened to his breathing, steady and controlled even in sleep, and wondered what it meant that she felt safer with a convicted felon sleeping 6 feet away than she'd felt in months living alone. The answer scared her almost as much as the threatening texts. Morning came with a knock on Derek's door. Hard, official, the kind of knock that meant authority. Derek was awake instantly, on his feet before Mara had even processed the sound. He checked the peephole and his entire body went rigid. Get in the bathroom, he said quietly. What? Why? Now, Mara. The tone left no room for argument. She grabbed her things and ducked into the tiny bathroom, leaving the door cracked enough to hear. Hayes, open up. It's Carlson. Derek opened the door. Mara could see through the crack. A white man in his 50s, well-dressed in an expensive suit, with the kind of smile that looked friendly but felt predatory. Detective Carlson, Derek said, voice carefully neutral. Didn't expect to see you? I bet you didn't. Carlson stepped inside without being invited, looked around the sparse apartment. Interesting that Martinez called me last night. Said you'd reported a stalking incident involving a young woman. His eyes landed on Mara's bag by the mattress. Is she here? She's staying somewhere safe. That didn't answer my question. Carlson's smile widened. You know, Hayes, I thought you'd learned your lesson about playing hero, but here you are, 3 months out, already inserting yourself into someone's drama. I'm not inserting myself into anything. Someone's threatening her. I'm helping her stay safe. Are you? Or are you trying to relive your glory days, the big tough guy protecting the helpless woman? Carlson moved closer. Let me refresh your memory about why you really went to prison, since I'm guessing you gave this girl the sanitized version. Derek's jaw clenched, but he said nothing. Marcus Webb wasn't some cartoon villain beating his girlfriend for fun, Carlson continued. He was a successful businessman with some anger issues, sure, but the night you attacked him, Sarah had just told him she was pregnant, his baby, and she'd also told him she'd been sleeping with someone else and wasn't sure whose kid it was. Marcus got upset. They argued. She hit him first. He pushed her away. She fell. And then you showed up and nearly killed him based on half a story from a woman who'd been lying to everyone. Mara's stomach dropped. That's not what happened, Derek said, but his voice lacked conviction. Isn't it? Sarah admitted all of this during the trial, but by then you'd already taken the plea deal. You didn't want to hear that maybe the guy you nearly murdered wasn't the monster you'd convinced yourself he was. Carlson shrugged. I'm not saying Marcus was a saint. But he didn't deserve what you did to him. And you didn't go to prison for being a hero, Hayes. You went to prison for being a violent thug who couldn't control his temper. Why are you here? Derek's voice was tight. Because Marcus is dead. Killed himself 3 months ago, right before your release. Hanged himself in his home office. Left a note talking about how the assault had ruined his life, destroyed his business, cost him everything. Carlson pulled out a folder. And his family thinks you had something to do with it. I was in prison. You were. But you had friends on the outside, associates, people who owed you favors. Carlson opened the folder, showed Derek photos. We looked into your visitors log. Interesting pattern of visits from known gang affiliates in your last year. Want to explain that? Those weren't gang affiliates. They were guys from my block who were trying to stay clean, same as me. We had a support group inside. Support group. Carlson's tone was mocking. And after you got out, did you support them back? Maybe with information on Marcus? Maybe with encouragement to settle an old score? Derek's hands curled into fists. Mara saw him force them to relax. Saw the effort it took. I had nothing to do with Marcus's death, Derek said quietly. I was glad when I heard he was dead. I won't lie about that. But I didn't cause it. And I sure as hell didn't order it. Then you won't mind if I talk to this girl you're protecting? Carlson looked directly at the bathroom door. You can come out, miss. I know you're there. Mara stepped out, chin raised, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. I'm Mara Bennett. Carlson's smile returned. Detective Robert Carlson, Philadelphia PD. Did Hayes tell you about Marcus Webb? He told me he went to prison for assault. Did he tell you why? Did he tell you the whole story? Carlson glanced at Derek. Or just the version where he's the hero? Mara looked at Derek, saw the shame in his eyes, the resignation. He told me enough. Really? Then you know that Marcus Webb is dead. That his brother, Ryan Webb, has been trying to get Hayes' parole revoked for months. That Ryan believes Hayes had Marcus killed. Carlson pulled out another photo, slid it across to Mara. It showed a man, 30s, dark hair, intense eyes, standing outside the Riverside Apartments. This is Ryan. Took this photo yesterday. He's been watching this building, watching you. You want to guess why? The photo clicked something into place in Mara's mind. The texts, the threats, the knowledge of her routine. Ryan is the one stalking me, she said. Smart girl. Ryan's been fixated on Hayes since his brother's death. And then you came along. Vulnerable young woman. Hayes playing protector again. Ryan saw an opportunity. Carlson took the photo back. He's been trying to set Hayes up. Make him look like the aggressor. Get witnesses to testify that Hayes threatened him, violated his parole conditions. Because if Hayes goes back to prison, Ryan considers that justice for his brother. That's insane, Mara said. That's grief. Carlson's expression softened slightly. Look, Miss Bennett, I didn't come here to scare you. I came to warn you. Ryan Webb is dangerous right now. He's not thinking clearly. And Hayes here, noble intentions aside, is putting you at risk just by being near you. Ryan wants to hurt Hayes. The easiest way to hurt Hayes is through you. Derek's face had gone pale. I'll leave. I'll stay away from her. Just make sure she's protected. It's too late for that, Carlson interrupted. Ryan's already connected you two in his mind. Leaving now just makes you look guilty. What you need to do is come down to the station, make a formal statement about your whereabouts when Marcus died, cooperate fully with the investigation. I already did that. Martinez cleared me. Martinez cleared you of direct involvement. But Ryan's pushed for a fuller investigation. He's hired private investigators, dug up old associates of yours, found witnesses who claim you talked about Marcus inside, talked about what you'd like to do to him if you ever got the chance. Carlson closed his folder. I'm trying to help you here, Hayes. But you need to help yourself. And that means staying away from situations that make you look like the same violent criminal you were 8 years ago. After Carlson left, Derek sank into one of his chairs, head in his hands. Mara sat beside him. Is it true, what he said about Marcus and Sarah? Some of it. Derek's voice was muffled. Sarah was pregnant. I didn't know that at the time. And yeah, she and Marcus had been fighting. But Carlson left out the part where Marcus had 3 prior domestic violence complaints that went nowhere because of his connections. He left out the part where Sarah ended up in the hospital twice before I stepped in. He made it sound like I attacked him over a lover's quarrel when the reality was I saw a pattern of abuse and lost my temper trying to stop it. But you didn't know the whole story. No. Derek looked up. I didn't. And that's what I've had to live with. The fact that maybe I was right about Marcus being dangerous, but I was also wrong about that specific night. I made assumptions, acted on incomplete information, and a man nearly died because of it. Mara thought about her own snap judgments, about seeing Derek's tattoos and scars and making assumptions, about Tyler and how easily she'd believed he was harmless until he wasn't. What happened to Sarah? She asked. She lost the baby. Stress from the trial, from everything. Last I heard, she moved to California, changed her name, started over. Derek's voice was hollow. She testified against me because Marcus's lawyers convinced her I'd put her in danger. And maybe they were right. Maybe everything I touch turns to ash. Derek, you should leave. Mara, go stay with your sister and wherever she is. Get away from me before Ryan escalates. Before I drag you down with me. But before Mara could respond, her phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. This time it was a video. She pressed play and felt her blood turn to ice. It was footage of Derek and her, shot from across the street through her apartment window. Last night, talking, eating pizza, laughing. The video was edited with text overlaid. Ask him about Marcus Webb. Ask him what else he's not telling you. Ask him why men like him never change. The video had been posted to a public Facebook page with her name tagged. Already it had 17 shares. Derek watched over her shoulder, his face going white. Ryan's trying to destroy me publicly. Make everyone see me as the monster he believes I am. Then let me destroy him back. Mara's voice was hard. Let me tell the truth about what he's been doing. The stalking, the threats. That'll just make it worse. He'll claim I'm using you as a shield, manipulating you. I don't care what he claims. Mara stood, pulled out her laptop. I work for a law firm, Derek. I know how to document evidence. I know how to build a case. And I'm done being scared. She spent the next 3 hours downloading every threatening text, every photo, documenting timestamps and patterns. She reached out to Martinez, to her firm's senior partners, to everyone she could think of who might help. Derek watched, silent and tense, clearly torn between wanting her to stop and being grateful she wasn't running. By noon, Mara had built a comprehensive file. By 2 p.m., she'd convinced Martinez to get a warrant for Ryan's phone records. By 4 p.m., Ryan Webb had been brought in for questioning, but at 5 p.m., Derek got a call from his parole officer. I need to see you, Officer Johnson said. Today. Now. Someone's filed a complaint claiming you violated the terms of your parole by threatening them. Derek's hands were shaking when he hung up. Ryan filed it before they brought him in. A preemptive strike. What does that mean? It means, Derek said quietly, that even if we prove Ryan's been stalking you, even if we prove everything, he's still succeeded in what he wanted. My parole's under review. And if Johnson decides I'm too much of a risk... He didn't finish the sentence. Didn't have to. Mara grabbed his jacket, handed it to him. Then we go together, and we tell the truth. All of it. Mara, you don't have to... Yes, I do. She took his scarred hand in hers. Because you were right. The moment you caught me on those stairs, everything changed. For both of us. And I'm not letting Ryan Webb or anyone else take that away. Derek looked at their joined hands. You know what associating with me costs? Your job might hear about this. Your family definitely will. People will look at you different. They'll think you're damaged or desperate or stupid for choosing someone like me. Then let them think that. Mara squeezed his hand. Because when I look at you, I see someone who made a mistake trying to do the right thing. Someone who's paid for that mistake every day for 8 years. Someone who's trying to build a life from nothing and still finds time to make sure I get to work safely. And if that makes me stupid, then I'm okay being stupid. For the first time since Carlson's visit, Derek smiled. It was small and sad, but real. Okay, he said. Let's go face the music. But as they left the apartment, Mara's phone buzzed one more time. Another video. This one showed Derek outside Tyler's car the night they'd had their confrontation. The angle was perfect, the lighting clear, and Derek's body language, controlled, threatening, dangerous, told a story that could be interpreted a dozen different ways. The caption, "This is who Mara Bennett chooses to protect her." This is who she trusts. What does that say about her judgment? The video was going viral. Officer Johnson's office smelled like burnt coffee and failed promises. Derek sat rigid in the hard plastic chair, Mara beside him, both waiting for judgment. Johnson opened the file slowly, her expression unreadable. Ryan Webb filed a complaint alleging you violated parole, Johnson said. These are serious allegations, Hayes. They're false, Derek replied carefully. Ryan's been stalking Miss Bennett. He's trying to provoke a reaction. Mara leaned forward, opening her laptop. I have evidence, screenshots of threatening texts, videos Ryan posted online, Detective Martinez's confirmation of my stalking complaint. Her voice was steady despite the fear underneath. Derek has been protecting me, not threatening anyone. Johnson examined the evidence. Her jaw tightened. This is thorough, Miss Bennett. I work for a law firm. I know how to document. Johnson turned to Derek. Tell me about Tyler Simmons. Mara's ex was harassing her. I asked him to stop. I kept my distance. No touching, no threats, just consequences if he continued. That's still a threat when you're on parole with your history. Derek's hands clenched. I was protecting someone who needed protection. I understand, but your case is high profile now. That video has 50,000 views. People see a violent ex-con threatening someone. Johnson closed her file. I'm going to verify your story. But Hayes, you need to be perfect from here on out. One misstep and I can't protect you. Outside, Derek exhaled shakily. Mara grabbed his arm. That went better than expected. For now. Derek's phone buzzed. An unknown number. A photo of Sarah, Marcus's ex, holding a sign. Derek Hayes destroyed my life. Below it, press conference tomorrow, 10 a.m. Ryan Amara went pale. He found her. Yeah, and whatever she says will be the story everyone believes. Then we tell your story first. Who'll listen? I'm a convicted felon. She's a victim. I'll listen. Mara grabbed his phone. We need Martinez. We get ahead of this before Ryan controls the narrative. But Derek was pulling away, the weight of 8 years pressing down. Maybe you should step back. Go home before— Don't. Mara's voice cut sharp. I don't push me away because you're scared. We're in this together. You don't understand what's coming. Good, because you shouldn't face it alone. They made it back to the riverside as Martinez called. Ryan posted bail. He was spotted outside your building 20 minutes ago. Derek's jaw clenched. He's escalating. Stay inside. Stay visible. I'm working on a restraining order. At midnight, they watched Sarah's live stream. She looked tired, broken. Ryan stood behind her, hand on her shoulder like a puppeteer. Derek Hayes didn't protect me, Sarah said, voice shaking. He destroyed both our lives, and my Marcus paid the ultimate price. He took his own life 3 months ago. I blame Derek Hayes for that. The screen went dark. Derek's voice was hollow. She's not wrong, not entirely. She's letting Ryan use her grief to destroy you. Does it matter? I'm tired, Mara. Tired of fighting. Tired of proving I'm not a monster. Tired of dragging you into my mess. Mara knelt before him, took his scarred hands. You listen to me. You are not a monster. Someone who can't handle their grief is trying to destroy you. But I won't let them, and neither should you. Why do you care so much? Because you caught me when I fell. Because you show up every morning. Because you make me feel like I matter. Her eyes were bright, and I refused to let Ryan Webb take that away. Derek pulled her close, held tight, 2 broken people holding each other up. At 8 a.m., Martinez called. Ryan Webb is dead, apparent suicide. Left a note blaming you. Mara's hands shook as she lowered the phone. Derek had gone white, stumbling to the bathroom where she heard him being sick. When he emerged, his face was devastated. Just like Marcus, he whispered. Another death because of me. No! Mara grabbed his face, forced him to look at her. Ryan made a choice, a terrible, tragic choice. But it was his choice. You didn't make him stalk me. You didn't create his obsession. He did that himself. Derek pulled away, disappearing into guilt and shame. I need to turn myself in. For what? You didn't do anything. There's a note, blaming me. The press will say I drove him to it. That everywhere I go, people die. His voice broke. Maybe they're right. No. Mara's voice turned hard. We're not doing this. We're not letting Ryan control the narrative from the grave. We face this head on, tell the truth, and trust justice will prevail. Justice? Derek laughed bitterly. When has justice ever worked for someone like me? Then let's make it work now. Mara grabbed her laptop and phone. Files. We're going to the police station. Making a statement. Getting ahead of this before the press spins it wrong. Mara, no arguments. You don't get to give up. Not after everything we've fought for. Not after I've put my job, my family, my reputation on the line. Her eyes blazed. You caught me when I fell. Derek Hayes. Now I'm catching you. Let's go. They walked past reporters, cameras flashing, questions shouting. Mara held Derek's hand tightly, refusing to let go. The police interview lasted 4 hours. Derek answered everything, provided alibis, submitted to verification. Martinez was thorough but fair. You're clear, she finally said. Forensics confirms time of death during your interview. Airtight alibi. But the note, is Ryan's final attempt to hurt you? People will believe what they want, but truth is on your side. Eventually, that matters. Outside, Mara stepped before the cameras. Derek Hayes had nothing to do with Ryan Webb's death. He has a confirmed alibi. What Ryan did was tragedy born of grief and mental illness. Instead of using his death as another weapon, let's have a conversation about mental health support. She handled every question, articulate, passionate, unafraid. Derek watched with awe. Later, Officer Johnson called. You're cleared. Parole status unchanged. Keep showing up. Keep working. Keep being boring. Yes, ma'am. And Hayes, that girl defending you, someone who sees you clearly, don't waste that. I won't. The media attention shifted slowly. More nuanced articles appeared, pieces about re-entry difficulties, about whether Ryan's obsession said more about society's inability to forgive than Derek's guilt. Sarah issued a statement expressing regret for letting Ryan use her grief. Not an apology exactly, but acknowledgement that things had been more complicated. It was something. Mara's firm ended her leave. Winters actually apologized. You handled an impossible situation with grace. Reminded us our values should include supporting our staff. We'd like you back. She returned. But she also applied to law schools. Night programs, part-time options. She wouldn't be derailed again. Derek kept walking her to work every morning. Those quiet moments before the city woke became precious. Just them, coffee, and the possibility that today would be better than yesterday. 3 weeks after Ryan's death, Derek stopped at the third step. Management finally fixed it. Only took 6 months and a media circus, Mara said dryly. Derek smiled. Can I ask something? Of course. Why me? Really? Why was I worth all of this? Mara thought about strong hands catching her, gray eyes that made her matter, a man with every reason to avoid complications who chose to protect her anyway. You caught me falling, she said. Not just on stairs. You caught me falling into a life where I'd given up on what I wanted, where I'd accepted being small and scared. You reminded me I could actually live, not just survive. She took his hand. You showed me what redemption looks like. Someone trying every day to be better. That's worth fighting for. Derek pulled her close, forehead against hers. I don't know what I did to deserve you. You caught me when I fell. The rest was just me returning the favor. They moved into a new apartment together. Derek got promoted. Mara got into law school with scholarship. Her mother eventually came around, grudgingly at first, then genuinely. They got a 3-legged cat from the shelter, named him Chance. One morning, passing the riverside, Derek looked at the fixed third step. Ever think what would have happened if I hadn't caught you? You would have found another way. Some connections are inevitable. At her law school door, he asked, Same time tomorrow? Same time tomorrow. Before entering, she turned back. Thank you for catching me, for showing up, for being exactly who you are. Derek smiled. Thank you for seeing who that was. She texted, I love you. His reply, I know, I love you too. Simple, honest, exactly what they needed. Derek Hayes had caught Mara Bennett on the stairs, and every day since, they'd been catching each other in all the ways that mattered. Not a fairy tale, not always easy, but real, and theirs, and enough. If you made it to the end of this story, Let us know in the comments which city you're watching from, and click the yellow bell to subscribe to the channel and support us. Keep the adventure going by clicking on the suggested video on your screen.